People who think that they're owners generally are operators. You might spend 10% in being business owner, but the rest of the time you're meddling, you're in the weeds, something happens, you react to it. The reason why we react to it is because the infrastructure is probably not right in the first place.
You know that feeling when your business is booming on the outside, you've got the shiny branding, the solid revenue, but behind the scenes, it feels like it's held together with duct tape and sticky notes and sheer willpower. It's kind of like this, right? Picture this, a polished car on the outside, but underneath the hood or the bonnet, there's sparks flying, the engine is rolling, and the wheels are just about to frickin' fall off. Sound familiar? Okay, well, today I'm sitting down with the absolute powerhouse that is Katie Furey. She's not just a mom with an ops brain wired for scaling. She's been the secret weapon behind businesses that have exploded from the kitchen table to 200 million in revenue. And now she's bringing that same clarity and structure to your business. Hey, I'm Deirdre Martin, your host for the Master Your Business podcast. I'm a triple certified, award-winning, international best-selling author, and I help entrepreneurs just like you make their first 100K or that breakthrough million without burning out or bottlenecking their brilliance. And in this episode, you will discover how to stop being the bottleneck in your business, build scalable systems that don't sacrifice your soul, and finally shift from chaotic operator to visionary CEO. Katie shares stories that'll make you laugh, possibly cry, and definitely rethink your to-do list. If you've ever felt like you've built your business on quicksand instead of concrete, well then this episode is for you. Let's go. Katie, welcome to the Master Your Business podcast. Delighted to have you here.
Absolutely chuffed to be asked to be here. So yeah, I'm really grateful to be asked. It's one of them with podcasts. You think someone wants to hear what I've got to say. So yeah, I'm really grateful to be here.
Well, Katie, I've heard you speak before, so I know you've got incredible things to say. And speaking of which, I was recently reading one of your posts that you wrote, and it's something close to home. You shared a really powerful story about your daughter Ava and navigating the challenges during lockdown. The post was really about what being a mom taught you about leadership. So before we dive into all sorts of things ops related, let's start there.
Yeah, I think that sometimes, and the way I wrote the post was read this as a mum, not as a Katie who owns a business, because I think it's really important that we stay true to also who we are outside our business, but how life and things that happen around you completely translate into business anyway. So very quickly, Ava's 6 years old. When we were in lockdown, I was an ops director for a large franchise, 200 million pound turnover, 200 franchise locations in care. So I was absolutely head down in the business. So no furlough for me. It was pure work. And Sean was 100 days. My husband was 100 days with the kids. And we just started noticing Ava was different. But probably we didn't probably notice as much. It was just like, I don't know, because it's your child, isn't it? So you're like, your children are perfect. But we'd notice things, and then obviously going through school, we noticed more challenges. But she's massively inspirational, and I am a very emotional person, so I'll try and hold the tears back. But we've got two children who are incredibly different, just like all we are, we all are, sorry. And she has pushed through every single challenge that's been put in front of her. And so some of it unbeknown to herself, that she's just a go-getter. She's just a go-getter. Nothing phases her. And sometimes I think, God, I wish I could have that child mindset again of not giving two shits about anything, not caring, not having any baggage and all the stuff that we take through our lives and let affect us, whether it's making decisions or how we feel. She's just could say resilient, but it's not even resilience. She just doesn't care. She doesn't have the baggage. So that, in a way, I sometimes think, God, I wish I could go back to being a kid who's just curious and wants to learn. And I think I'm still really curious because I love learning. I'm like a sponge, but I hold myself back, limiting beliefs. People talk about imposter syndrome, all of those things. don't affect Ava. So she's just gung ho. And the post was about she decided she wanted to be in Rocksteady, which is a band at school, and she decided she wanted to be the lead singer. And obviously I knew this was going on because she went singing every Tuesday. But then when I sat there, oh my God, I was just in floods of tears because I thought she's in in front of 200 other kids. She does get really shy, but she's got such a uniqueness that she's incredibly vulnerable. And sometimes what does make me sad, she's incredibly aware of what she can't do. And she started to say that to me and Sean, and she'd say, Mummy, everybody's cleverer than I am. And we've had to it's really tested us as parents, but even like your leadership stuff comes out. Like the way I speak to Ava, sometimes I feel like I'm speaking to a client because I'm like, but why do you feel like that? And what makes you different? But that's your superpower and that's their superpower. And we've all got our own superpowers, and it's a bit about being an individual, Ava, and you're incredibly special. So it's funny that we're surrounded by our children, and actually I genuinely take inspiration from Ava, who's 6 years old, because she's killing it in her world, and obviously I want to kill it in my world. So yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. And like it's so true, isn't it? And I mean, in leadership, when we start out and in business, when we start out, no different to you, we wear so many hats. And so
Yeah,
does Ava even, right? She's a daughter,
yeah,
she's the lead singer, she's a team
yeah,
member, all of the things. But for you, as you're an entrepreneur, you've done incredible things so far in your career already, Katie. But let's say I would call you a leader, a strategist, a mom, a mentor, and so many other things as well, wife, partner, friend, all of the
yeah.
things. How do you stay grounded in yourself when you're leading at such a high level?
I have always invested in coaching, always 100%. And I think that was probably the biggest change for me when I was employed. It brought out the best in me and reduced the worst in me, so to speak. And I do wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm incredibly passionate, but I'm incredibly emotional at the same time. And you've got to. I think when I was younger, I just didn't. Not I didn't care, like I'm very target driven. So basically, my coach said to me one day, Katie, you're incredible. You've got but these are the things that I'll challenge you on. And she was like, the goal's over here, and you're running to that goal, whatever it is, financial, scaling business, whatever it is, and your team are all over here. And I was like, oh my God. And it was a massive wake up call for me to say, you've got to take people with you. You've got to sell the dream, the vision. You've got to bring it to life for people. So definitely having a coach keeps me grounded, and surrounding yourself with people, like-minded people, but always people who help you think bigger. That is, I think when you're putting yourself in the same circle of the same people, you'll think that same way. And I think sometimes that's almost limiting what you can achieve. And I'm just pivoting, Katie Furey, consulting at the minute, and all I am doing is thinking big. And sometimes I think what did impact me as well is people telling me I couldn't do it. And I know everybody has those stories, but you're not strategy, Katie. You don't think, and now I think, whatever. Because and sometimes I probably go in the visionary box too much, and I have to bring myself back down to earth because I know, and like in my heart, I am a real operator. Like I'm all about ops and scaling business. So yeah, it's surround yourself with people who help you think bigger, be logical, like look at the data, like always, like lead with. I think we can all have great ideas, but at the end of the day, if you can think anything's great, right? And then you put it out there and it absolutely tanks like anything. And get advice, and don't, like, for me, it's no ego. People used to say, you've got no ego. And I'd say, well, to some extent I do, because I've stood on stage and done a conference to 1,000 people and absolutely crap myself. And it was like all of that was a learn. But again, I got coaches to coach me on how to speak and how to present. So for me, it's always about how can I be better? How can I be better? And I'll be really honest. I think that's an incredible amount of pressure that I put on myself, and that sometimes is quite detrimental. So that's why I think no matter what I do holistically, I always have people I can go to go, oh, I'm at the end of my tether, because building business is not easy at all. And if it was, everybody would do it. And I think the big change for me in the last 2 years has been coming out of a corporate infrastructure, that fair enough part of that infrastructure I was part of building, to come in and going, right, these are all your skills, what you're going to do with them. Like, there's no blueprint, you're creating the blueprint. And that's been quite a journey, because I can go and tell anybody, I can put me in any business and I'll tell you everything that you can do better. Then I hold the mirror up and look at me and think, God, if someone come in here right now, am I actually am I practicing what I preach? So being grounded sometimes is always that self-reflection as well, of like, are you practicing what you preach here as well?
I love that. There's so much in there. And I think the big thing that seems to emerge from there is that coaching piece, self-coaching and having your coach. That's powerful. And I think not enough people have coaches. And I know there's a lot of coaches who listen to the show, so they're going, yes, yes, you're so right. But at the same time, are you being coached if you're a coach, because
Yeah.
it's really powerful. That circle is really important. And one of the things that really resonated with me, Kate, because I had a similar mentor who said something to me at one point in my career, was where I'd been promoted several times and I got to where I got to because of my own performance. But to get to the next level, he said, Deirdre, now you need to bring other people with you. And I think as a business owner, when you go from that solopreneur stage to becoming, I don't want to say an entrepreneur, I don't know, like you're starting to build a company and a team
Yeah.
rather than being a
Yeah.
solopreneur. That's where you have all the visionary stuff in your head, but you're bringing people in.
Yeah.
And where would you say is the best place to start for people who are literally at that stage right now?
Yeah. And this is through experience as well. I think you have to start with the end in mind. You have to, because if, for example, if you don't and you think, right, I'm going to monetize my skills, which is what a lot of people are doing now, I think it's an incredible time to be an entrepreneur or start your own business. You can work from anywhere in the world. Technology gives us so much capability. We're still teaching our kids the very old education system, when we should be, that needs to be transformed. That's a whole podcast. I think, for me, you've got to start with the end in mind, because if you're not thinking like that, you will hold on to everything. You will become very overwhelmed very, very quickly, because even though you will have your unique skill set, to build that business out can't just be you. And or it can be, but you're only going to scale so far. So if you go, I want a lifestyle business and this is my gift and this is what I give, and I'm happy with that, that's absolutely fine. And there is a market for that, 1,000,000%. But if when we start to say, well, I want to scale, I want to build a business. If my mindset is, I'm building this business to exit at some point. And I've had to really shift that mindset in the last 2 years, because I was being everything to everyone. I talked about scale, but I couldn't scale myself. And then you almost get a little bit precious and you sort of go, well, I do this the best. Like, and no one can do it like me. And I think that's an absolute killer mindset. It will hold your business back 100%. And I've had moments in time, and I had one in December going into January, where the clouds just parted and it was like, I've got clarity. I've got clarity for once. I've got clarity on how I want to scale this business, because I stopped being precious. And now my mantra is sort of like, as soon as I think that what needs to be done, or there's something within the business plan that needs to be done, I'm thinking about who I'm going to get to do it, rather than thinking about how am I going to do this, because it's incredibly hard to run fast. We're not, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And that's how I think of it now. And it's really shifted my mindset, Deirdre, in terms of, I don't want a lifestyle business. That's not what I want. I want to scale, and I want to potentially exit in the future. And if that didn't happen, I want a really good lifestyle whilst I'm building this business. And then I also tuned back into my why. And you have to start with that, because if on those really crap days where you've had enough, you're working ridiculous hours and you're like, oh my God, but at the same time you're like, gotta pay the bills. It's not a salary. Like, I've got to show up every single day. I I genuinely I've lost my trail of thought.
That's okay. I want to come back and ask you something else there that you said. So you said who, not how. Tune in with your why and start with your end in mind. So let's come back to the who, not how, because I know you've led the redesign of entire business models. And I think sometimes what happens is that business owners might need to rethink how they're delivering, not just what they're delivering, before they look at the who. Now, that's my view, and please challenge me if you don't agree with that. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that. Is it important to rethink how they're delivering, not just what they're delivering, before they look at the who, or should the who come into play first?
I think it's probably a little bit in line, as in who would you get to do that,
Yeah,
for
and
example.
how it's been delivered.
Yeah, and this is target operating model design at its essence, really, because, and not just because, and I also think delivery is really important because we're in a different world now. We don't have to sit face to face in workshops, and I think for me, the delivery, maybe delivery at its core, but what I talk about is the experience of what you are delivering and what that looks and feels like. So I think, like even for me now, I have like designing organizational structures is what I've done in the past. But even I think about that differently now. And don't get me wrong, I find it really easy to design things for big established businesses versus startup, because when you're starting up, you're figuring it out. You're figuring out what works. And I think the world that we live in now, what's really beautiful about it is I don't have to go out and start putting big salaries into this business. There are so many freelancers out there now who are incredible at what they do, and you can dial them up, dial them down. So I think the fail fast mentality has to be part of your MO, because what's the risk? What's the risk? Do I go out and bring in an 80 grand salary, or do I bring exactly that same person in for the skill set, but I just need them for 2 or 3 hours a day? And that's where they give me the most value. And I think designing target operating models and the future of that needs to be considered in that sense. There will always be a need for full-time staff and salaried partners and people working with you. But I really do think differently about, why we're doing this ultimately. What is it that we want to achieve? Who's going to help me actually get there? And then what does that infrastructure actually look like? Because, I don't know many business owners who start off with lots of money in the bank and, yeah, like I didn't. And do you know what? I think as stressed as I was and leaving a six-figure salary, my back was against the wall. And because my back was against the wall, there was no plan B. It had to work. Now, that was a shed load of pressure on me, but it worked. It worked because, and when I used to work in franchising, when we used to like award franchises, people who had a lot of money behind them, like they weren't the people who I thought like these are the people we want, because I just think, well, if they're having a really crap day or the business is going bad, like they've got a shed load of money in the bank, they don't have to worry about what's their motivation. What's their motivation? So yeah, I think when you are starting at that point, I think the most things I think about is always like that operational core, that part of it, customer success and delivery and onboarding and all of that stuff within your operations and what that looks like, and get rid of things as quickly as I possibly can. And I also be very, very honest with myself of what I am not good at. And I know exactly what I'm not good at, what doesn't set my heart on fire. So things like marketing, I'm not a marketer, right? I am not a marketer. I have ideas, but I'm not. So I know I need help with that part of the business. Growing the business, operations, KPIs, balance scorecards, all of that is here. It's within my gift. But it's a little bit like what I said before when I started off, a very closed mindset rather than fixed about there's only me who can do this. I think you should be challenging yourself all the time to be thinking, what can I teach? What out of what I've got can I teach somebody else? And coming back to the why was I always loved people. Like that's what I do genuinely love working with people, and I get great satisfaction. I think because I got to the stage in my ops role where I felt like I'd made it. Like ops director, right, I've got the job title, I'm done, sort of thing with that. I got so much more satisfaction out of people learning from me or being inspired by my journey because I'm not an academic, just worked incredibly hard from the bottom to the top, learnt the organization, and then started to put my own sprinkle of Katie Furey on it. So I think I am totally energized by seeing people succeed. And if I'm not creating that environment within my own business, then I'm not really living true to my why.
And so coming back to why, because a lot of business owners and founders, what happens is they just get so much in the weeds that they lose their why. So
Yeah,
how would you recommend that business owners or founder reconnects with their why and
yeah,
then ties that back to their business strategy?
yeah, 100%. So I recently did a workshop on this, and the way I'd sort of position it is owner versus operator mindset.
Mm.
And for all your listeners, I'll set you a task, right? If people who think that they're owners generally are operators. That's what I do find. Like you might spend 10% in being business owner, but the rest of the time you're meddling, you're in the weeds, something happens, you react to it. And a lot of the stuff, the reason why we react to it is because the infrastructure is probably not right in the first place. But for anybody out there who is at this point where you're like, I'm in the weeds, I think you need to take a step back and you need to genuinely challenge yourself and don't just do this on your own. Bring someone in, someone who you trust, who can constructively challenge and really think about the why you actually started this in the first place. And sometimes it's a bit of a hard truth, and you might say, this isn't actually my why. Like I've lost my why. And sometimes I think you can absolutely regain your why. And other times I think the business will have taken you down a path where it's just not serving you, and you've got to be super honest with yourself. So I think first of all, first step is take some time, step back, and think about what it is that you're actually doing. And it might be from a business perspective and from a personal perspective. And some people create vision boards, some people are very visual and I see a lot of my peers will have villas and all sorts in front of them to keep it like that's what we're going for. So and I think it's really important to start with why, because when you do have the hard times, that's what will pull you through 100%. Me thinking about the life I want to give our children now, not when I'm retired. And it's not about, I don't want money then. I want money now, and I want the lifestyle I want, and I want to be happy, and I want to be comfortable. That, that can drive me through the worst days ever. So I think you've got to reconnect with your why. I think you've also got to take a step back and almost like put it on a chart, post-it notes, go, all the things that you're doing, list basically everything, post-it note wise, what you do day to day, everything. And then put owner on one side and operator on the other. And be really honest and put those post-it notes where you believe that role sits. And I did this with a group of business owners. There were about 8 business owners in the room, and 70% of their time was spent in the operations, not as a business owner, not in the visionary space. And these guys had teams. So I was like, your teams must be like feet up, like if you're doing all this. Like they must be absolutely loving life. And it just made them step back and go, wow. Like and almost from that list, then you create your delegation list. You basically go, that because sorry, one step back. Once you've got that list, what do you love and what do you absolutely hate? Like, don't do things that you don't like. Don't do things that don't motivate you. And those things for me are the starting to form what you actually need in your business. And you either actually need a role to come in and take those from you, or you need to delegate appropriately to the team that you've already got. And I think so from that list, you basically create your delegation list, and you sort of go and you start to swap it. And I'm not saying you're never in the operations. I'm not saying that at all. I think it's very important to be on the shop floor of your business always before you make decisions, so you understand how it'll impact the team. But it's very, very interesting. And these businesses were probably anything from £1 to £2 million turnover, and 70% of their time was operational. Yet they thought they were business owners. So that it was a very, and it was one of them. I know people say it, but that aha moment where they were all like, "Oh my God, like I'm spending so much time in the weeds and I don't need to." And then we dug into why is it? Is it a trust thing? Is it because you've not got the right people on the bus, or you don't have the right people in the business that you actually need? And I asked them for feedback, and they were like, we just felt like we got so much clarity just off doing that one exercise. So that's what I would say to anyone listening, do that exercise.
Oh my gosh, I can feel in myself the things rising because I'm like, oh, I do that, but I don't want to let it go. And it's not because I don't think anyone would do it better or not do it as
Yeah.
well as me. People would probably do it better than me, but I'm like, I just
Yeah.
enjoy that part of
You're
my
enjoying it.
business so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting around that. And like, okay, the question I have, because I can't visualize this yet in my business. If I'm an owner versus an operator, what am I spending most of my time doing?
Yeah. Are you asking me what I think you are doing?
Well, what should I be doing? Or
But
like,
doing, yeah.
what should I be visualizing? Should
Yeah.
I be in that villa somewhere?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think the first port of call is get on a plane and get somewhere warm. What should you be doing? Do you know what? I think for the last 2 years, I'm saying this from experience because I've almost, and I know what I tell people, but I've gone through it, and I feel like I'm in such a better place now because you've got to one, start with your why, and what is it that you're actually wanting to achieve. So in the next 5 to 10 years, and some people will say to me, Katie, I don't think like that. And that's fine, but there'll be some form of nuggets that are some milestones that you want to achieve by a certain time that you can almost pinpoint. And I think you've got to go there to be able to work it back. So if I said, right, well, in the next 10 years, I want to exit, and now I'm also thinking like this business model that I've got hasn't been scalable. The pivot that we're doing opens the doors that this could be global. So my mind's just gone, oh, and now I'm just sat in strategy by the sheer excitement of what I'm running towards. The other and everything that comes out of that, my then mentality is it a me job, or is it someone else, or is this a me job but just for the next 6 months? Because it then comes into the whole, okay, if it is a me job for the next 6 months, what do I need to be bringing into this business to make sure I can hire someone? And it's having that mentality to think ahead. Like so many businesses, they don't do cash flow forecasts. And I think it's so important because if you want to do projects, or you want to recruit people in the future, or you want to give some of this stuff up that you're doing, you cannot do that without planning it out. You can't do it without planning it out. So for me, it's go to the why, think big, because the other thing I think you've got to really check in with yourself of going, if that's the panacea, if that's where I want to get to, is this model actually scalable? Like, can I scale this? And if so, then I've got to think, right, well, how do I scale it? Am I scaling it through people? Am I scaling it through because I can deliver the service to a lot of people at one time? And I think that's the bit I've really had to challenge myself on, because I love being, as you know, one to one. And I really closed off so many opportunities thinking like that, because ultimately, if I want to help as many businesses succeed and grow and have amazing operations, if I'm only doing that for me, like I'll probably help, I don't know, 20 businesses a year. Whereas if I do it with the new model, hundreds, thousands. And if I can teach people how to deliver that model and they feel amazing, then that's my why again. I love seeing people succeed. So business owners are growing and I'm building a team, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly what it's about.
I love that because I think what a lot of people end up doing is coming back to selling time instead of selling transformation. So you're
Yeah.
trading time for money. And a
Yeah,
lot of, I see this a lot with coaches, and I talk about offer ecosystems and layering it
yeah,
and like that, because otherwise it isn't scalable unless you look at how can you become the most premium person, and
yeah,
then it's still not scalable, but when you get oversubscribed, you can be charging like exponential rates. So it's
yeah,
worthwhile to do
yeah,
it at that level. But
yeah.
otherwise, it does become, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to a numbers game, and to an extent, that's what it is. But in doing that, it's looking at, from my perspective, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this. Are people oversimplifying or overcomplicating their business model or structure? And what what would your approach be to looking at that? So we've talked about stepping back, looking at the owner versus operator mindset, not having a fixed mindset, tuning into your why. But beyond that, the practical, pragmatic stuff in terms of building a sustainable, scalable business that still feels human,
Yeah.
what would your approach be?
So, but I think first and foremost, once you've outlined like the goals, the milestones that you want to achieve, I think it's really important, and this is sort of target operating model to some extent, putting people to the side for 1 minute, but genuinely having a plan, which I know sounds really like, well, of course, but I've been into businesses that have been 6, 7, 8 million pound turnover. There is no plan. There is no communication to team. They've just scaled and scaled and scaled, and it's just happened by sheer demand. And for me, if you don't, if, overall, if you said, right, in the next 12 months, I want to hit X across your business, if you think about your business like this, I think about it as in your business index. You've got marketing, business development, operations, people, maybe quality, compliance, finance. All of those parts of the index need to be worked on. Not maybe not at all times, but they need to be worked on. And I am a true believer in 90-day sprints, 100%. Because if you said to me, Katie, we've got to grow by 100K in the next 12 months, I'd be like, right, okay, and we might do a bit of fluff and how we might achieve it, but we'll probably only talk about how many clients do we need for that, how many of this do we need for that. We won't talk about what does the infrastructure look like, when will I need to bring a person in to do that, what, to scale it to 1,000, what does that feel like operationally? And I think that's the problem most of the time. We go, let's go to that number, let's push a load of money around marketing, let's get an influx of clients, and then everything falls to pieces because you weren't prepared for it, your operational systems weren't prepared for it, and also you've got no idea of how your business is performing. So for me, it's a plan. It can be as short term as 12 months. If you said to me, let's go to 100K, as a team member, let's say, and not because I'm not motivated, but I'd be like, in January, February, yeah, we'll get going and we're doing the things. And then February, May, we might have a bit of it's Easter, lots of holidays. Then we spike again. Then summer, we all calm down because it's the holidays. And then you probably get enough work out of me September, October. Then November, we're all on for Christmas. Like 100K does not mean diddly squat to me. Tell me I've got to get 25K in the next 12 weeks. And these are the fundamental things that we need to happen across every aspect of the business of the index. So this is what we're going to do on marketing. This is how many inquiries we need to drive. This is what our conversion rate needs to be. This is what our closers or setters or whoever in the team or operators need to do. That's a very, very different mindset. And that, not that I'm a control freak, but it gives me control. So as long as I can see and understand what is happening in the business, I will trust anybody to be the best that they can possibly be. And it's my job to help them to be the best that they can be because I know how to do it.
I love that. It makes it much more achievable as well. I definitely found that in my business as well. When I was starting my business, my initial mindset was I need to make 100 grand so I can replace my
Yeah,
current salary.
yeah,
But that just felt like climbing Everest, and I hadn't
absolutely.
done the prep work to do it. So how was I going to make that happen? But when I thought about how can I build that oversubscribed type model that I spoke about a minute ago, I realized I only need 8 clients. And if they're like, how many billion people are there in the world? And I
Exactly.
only need 8 of them and I can
Yeah,
achieve my 100 grand. And that just made it so much more. realistic,
Yeah,
and
realistic, yeah.
yeah,
And we don't break goals down tangible. Also, one for us to think about, but just think about the team around you, like you're all climbing Everest then, and like how motivated are people to do that? Not many. Not
mm,
many. It's just too far. I think as well, the other things that I do find, when you become more established and you do, don't get me wrong, and to all the listeners, like, I am not saying this is easy, and I'm not saying you jump out of bed one day and you go, I know exactly what my org structure looks like, I know exactly what my target operating. It doesn't happen. We have to fail fast. We have to try things. But that's where we learn. That's the most powerful part. And you know what? It's up to you, because it's your business. You're not stuck in an infrastructure and red tape telling you anymore, this is how you need to do it. But I also think part of that is, as you do start to build this team, it's really important that you're not just thinking about what the service you deliver and the people, you're thinking about your whole organization as the operation. So a lot of people don't, when I say technology, everyone will go, oh yeah, I use Notion, I use Dripify, I use whatever it is, could be anything. And I just think, so what? So what? But great. And there's 100 systems out there's Kaja, there's loads of systems out there. But you tell me how your technology infrastructure actually helps your business operate to its optimum level. You tell me that when you've added in that in, it also does 5 things that the other system that you're paying for actually does as well. And and that, I think, is really, really important in terms of looking at your own business ecosystem and understanding, from operations to sales to customer success, for all of that journey, what that technology roadmap actually looks like and how easy it is for people to use it. And not just your internal people, like if your clients are using some of those systems, they might already have 20 systems they already use. So I think that's really important. And then I think the third bit is, I love racy charts. It's a bit of a geeky thing, but racy charts are either used for projects or used for process management. And I think sometimes, if anybody out there right now, and I hope you go, oh God, yeah, if I did that, if you actually took a step back and hit the pause button and said, map every single process that you've got in your business right now, it'd look like spaghetti junction, I guarantee you. And it won't be seamless, because as businesses start with foundations, like, okay, I'm good, I've got these few systems, I know what I'm doing. If your business starts to scale, what I find in businesses over the last 12 years, that the foundations start okay, and then the business starts to go like this, and the foundations get narrower and narrower and narrower. And basically, it's like building a house. You build a house, you start to extend it, and you don't solidify the foundations, and it falls over. That will happen. And for me, when you're a unique position when you're starting your journey or into your maybe up to 6 figures, of really getting those foundations solid. So having your processes mapped, most businesses maybe have 10, 12, 15 high level processes, like how I onboard customers, how I offboard customers, all of that sort of stuff. Racy charts just give you real visibility. And I think the other thing that it gives you is, it's a brilliant way of inducting people to say, right, listen, your role crosses those 3 processes. Everything is in there, and all the SOPs of how to do it all are in there, because that's the place I started from. Now they may come in and go, I don't think that process is great, and I think we can do it quicker. Brilliant, let's drive efficiency. That's the mentality. And I think part of your culture and your ethos is that forever getting better and forever looking for the next solution. Having these things around you, your racy charts, your standard operating procedures, making sure you've got KPIs and that you've got proper reporting in place, balanced scorecard. You don't need complicated data warehouses. You just need to make sure you're capturing really important data, so that you can look at trends and analyze and really analyze your business. Because I've I'm saying all this, and I've started my business and sort of went, oh, forget all that, because I was just running so hard. And then I had to stop and go, practice what you preach, Katie, and get your shit in order in your own business, right? So they're really, really important. I think fundamental in any business, that have to be a priority. Because if you do well and you do tip the scale and you start going, it's painful. It's painful having to go back to ground zero and map it all out again. So if you can get that behavior of almost operational excellence, I would say, if you can get that mantra in your mind, then those are the tools that I would definitely use.
I love that. And that circles back to one of the first things you said once we started this conversation, which was when you're on a path and all of the people are over there, you need to bring them along with you. So it's all great saying that you have, you've ironed out Spaghetti Junction, let's just say, and you have your processes and stuff in place.
Yeah,
Getting people to execute the processes,
yeah,
Katie, that can be a challenge I've seen come up
yeah,
with clients where they've taken the time to create the SOPs, but now their team won't execute them.
yeah, yeah. And I think the other thing is, I think there's a significant part of trust when you are a business owner and starting to give things up. And it's not that you want control. You just want things that happen, and you're representing your brand and you want them to be seamless. It's our jobs. It's our jobs as founder of this business to teach people the way you want things to be done. Give them that open sort of, ability to say, actually, can we challenge that? I don't think it's right. 1,000,000%. Like I love people in business like that because I'm like, yeah, if you can figure it out, but crack on. But if it, what I really don't like it when people will pull somebody out of another role into their business, and after 3 months they say they're not working, they're this, they're that, and I think, but did you set them up for success? For every person you're bringing into your business, have they got a very clear induction? And I don't mean an induction that holds the hand for 6 months. I mean the absolute grounding foundations of what this business is and how you operate. And then let them be curious and go off and find, because you want them to be. You don't want to spoon feed them. But it's your job. It's your job to give them the best introduction to your business and how things work. It's their job to then take that and run with it. And I think that's really important.
Fantastic. That's a great answer. And Katie, last question, and maybe it'll come back. Maybe you might answer this with the owner versus operator mindset task that you've sent listeners off to do. But if someone is listening and they're really stuck in the chaos of that growth, what is one action that they could maybe take this week to create a bit of momentum?
What would I say? I would, in all honesty, they'll probably think, oh my God, I'd seriously, I would take myself away from the business for a day and I'd spend a day working on it. Because I could say to you now, go and look at your sales, go and look at your conversions, you can tweak that. But overall, fundamentally, if everything else is falling down around it, it'll be a quick win and only a quick win. It won't be sustainable. So I 100% say take a day out of your business, get some like-minded business owners together, or bring in a consultant, someone to facilitate a session for you to work on your business, on your strategy. And you know what? The best thing you could walk away with, even if it's not a 5-year, 10-year plan, 12-month plan, the next 90 days of what you need to focus on. That's what I would
Mm.
do.
I love that. Yeah, we've recently just had a Millionized CEO Day as well, where we looked at things like that
Brilliant.
too. And it's just to take people out of their business and give them that space and some of the prompts that they need to work on their business. And it's powerful.
It is, because I think the biggest takeaway from the workshop I did, and we did loads of different exercises, it was one of the main things they said is, Katie, I've got clarity. And I was like, I'm absolutely delighted. Good. I'm glad
Yeah,
you have.
that's so powerful, right? So,
Yeah.
Kinsey, final thing just to wrap up, what's coming up for you? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I've been at Katie Furey Consulting, support a lot of franchise businesses because that's the sector I was in, but also standalone businesses. My experience was from the care sector, but business is business. The principles are the same, so I can support any business at all. And we're just pivoting to we're rebranding, and we are called C-Suite. And C-Suite is going to be an incredibly rich community for business owners to come into. And we've got basically a framework to help people to scale and be operationally tip top. And that's what I've been working on for the last 2 years, but we've now pulled it into a framework. It's not it's not a course where you're going online. It's like we're going to be live. We're going to be in a rich community, and you're going to have access to me. And also, I'm creating a flexi board of basically experts in their field, so digital marketing, social media, whatever it is, sales, I want to disrupt to some extent in a positive way, especially for franchising, but it's applicable to any business. There's so much more support that you can give to people that when you're within a franchise, they provide amazing support, but it caps out at a certain level. So for me, I'm going to have a flexi board of individuals who are at the top of their game, who can come in and come out at any time and bring value to the community. So yeah, C-suite we've got on the 28th of April a webinar, and everything that we do in C-suite is all underpinned by an executive leadership coach who is working alongside me. So yeah, I'm really excited, really excited.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Katie. Katie, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
I've loved
Thank
it.
you so much for joining us. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Oh, okay, let's recap what we've just soaked up from this powerhouse episode with Katie Furey. We've learned how to shift from operator mode to owner mindset, so you stop firefighting and start leading. Katie dropped gold on how to build rock solid foundations using real data and not duct tape. And she gave us permission to stop being so precious, because scaling isn't about doing it all yourself. It's about asking who, not how. Now, here's your high impact action for today. I want you to take one day, just one day this week, to step out of the chaos and work on your business. Do Katie's owner versus operator exercise. Lay it all out with post-its or a spreadsheet or a whiteboard, whatever works for you. And be honest with yourself. It'll change the game. If you want more from Katie, head over to C-Suite, her new community built for business owners ready to scale with operational excellence. You'll find expert support, live training, and next level clarity. Now, if this episode made you nod, scribble notes, or whisper, "Oof, that's me," then please share it with another business owner who needs to hear it. It's the fastest way to help us grow the podcast and bring more incredible guests to your ears. And hey, do me a solid. Please remember to rate, review, and follow the Master Your Business podcast wherever you're streaming from today. It's your 5-second love note to me that makes all the difference. I kid you not. So until next week, thank you for tuning in and keep mastering your business.